Hey, we're already starting to record. I don't have a normal camera, so I'm gonna look like hell.
Recording in progress.
No, no, no. Too much. No, no.
There we
Stop
go.
the recording. Stop it. Welcome to the Dynasty Podcast. We're back at it again. Holy shit, an impromptu fucking podcast. Why the fuck not, right? We're here. I didn't know if this was gonna actually happen again. Oh, cheers, my brother from another mother. Um, fuck. Ben and I were talking a little bit just about an hour ago, and we said, "Fuck it, we're going to do a podcast at 8:30." It's now 8:21. We've worked through the technical difficulties, and we're ahead of schedule. So, hey, buddy.
How's it going? I didn't even look through the settings, which we generally screw up every time. So I don't even know if this is gonna just show me or just show you or whatever. We just came right into this meeting. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I brought the harmonica because it might.
I didn't
might
hear
come
it. Wait, did you just blow it?
Oh yeah, I can blow the harmonica. Yeah, absolutely. You didn't hear that?
I don't even have a fancy background. I'm so unprepared. It's been so long.
Yeah, it has been a little bit long. We have broken the band up at least 7 to 8 times. Been through a lot as a community over the last year, but I think we're back at it because it's prime time season at this point. We're in what? We're in an auction draft. You're in the new 2QB league draft. We're doing another draft in LOEG, which a lot of people are playing in. And then we have the BC draft starting on Friday, right? So
And the
a lot of action.
contractors draft as well.
Oh, when's that start?
Same hour, same day.
Oh, shit. Well, I have 101. So, I mean, pretty easy.
Yeah.
I think I have 1-1 and 619 in that one. Yeah, I'll just disappear after making a 12-hour pick on the clock. Yeah. Anybody wants Marvin Harrison? Come get it.
Trading the pick. Why would you tell somebody to do that?
No, I always said. I mean, I always trade the pick. Like it just depends what they're willing to pay. I traded what in LOEG. I traded Brees Hall. Got a Hall. I mean, it's like I'm always willing to make a move. It just depends.
It's fair.
So just to clarify, Ben and I, like I said, did not plan this. We do not have a script. We've never really had a script. We've kind of
Act
played
like we're actually very prepared normally.
Yeah, we have nothing to really add here other than two guys just talking about fantasy and fucking around a little bit. So
Well, we could talk about Georgia and his comments and probably fill an hour.
oh, you want to do that? You want to do
No,
that?
I'm just kidding. I mean, like, it's not like we were on last week and we need to creatively come up with things to talk about.
Yeah, you're right.
We haven't done this since mid-season.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit. It's always been a bit. But yeah, I think we just kind of couldn't figure out our schedules, and we had people in and out, and it was just like it was like nobody was really watching. I don't think like there was like 6 or 7 people, like,
Nobody ever
and I think
watches. I think more than we think watch. Maybe
well, yeah, but we need
thirdly.
we need like we need a little support, right? Like we need a little gratification. Like Penn's always really
Went on
good.
hiatus. We had to get everyone, frothing at
We
the
need we need involvement from the 32 25 other managers that don't normally like get involved. Like we'd love to hear your feedback. Like Missouri's a perfect example. Like Missouri was watching, and it's like
So
cool.
is Moose. So we're down one. We're down one viewer.
Well, Moose can suck a fat dick as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll tell you to suck a fat dick. It ain't discriminatory, but
isn't that how you got in trouble in the first place in the Discord?
yeah, well, I mean, I'm not even a part of the Discord anymore. I think we have to narrow it down. Like, I think Ben and I would both love to do this like on a regular basis. Like, I just invited my brother into the league. Like, we
Yeah,
do promise.
welcome
Yeah,
new owners.
I'm a little worried about the new owners, to be honest. So let's start there. So we're almost 2 weeks into having the new owners, and boy, it's crickets, man. I've sent offers to both of them, and I think one of them hasn't even changed his name. That's BJ's Playhouse, or what, I don't even remember what his name is. Phil's soft, I don't know, whatever. And then Justin, my brother, is like, I mean, he's overwhelmed, like, as a motherfucker. Like,
Yeah, but
so if you were ready,
that's why you shouldn't respond to trade offers. You have
no,
no
no,
idea what the hell the league is yet.
no, I hear you, but like, you got to start like you got to start chatting a little bit. You got to like kind of figure it out. Otherwise, it's like your
Two
$250
teams in
investment.
this league and only like 8 people ever hit the chat. Like, I think they're fine. I think they're fine. Ooh, I got Trevin
Well,
Wallace.
it kind of reminds me of like the first time I ever like finger banged a girl. It's like it was like you know junior year of college, and I'm like, man, like I've heard about this, and like I kind of want to try it, but like I was a little scared. And then like once
Hey, you were
I
in
got
college? Keep going.
got a little taste, and I was like, oh, okay, that's not that bad.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
like,
Not telling any of
just
my sexual stories.
I just
When they
started just fingering banging everybody. It's like, you gotta get in there. You gotta make your mistakes.
There's no mistakes, Corey, just happy accidents.
Right, exactly. I've had a couple of those too. Anyway, so Ben, I'm gonna throw one out there because we were talking about it a little bit in chat. Where do you rank Travis Kelce
Just
in
going.
dynasty leagues as a tight end moving forward?
Hold on. Okay. You said the next 2 years in the chat, so it's a very different conversation.
Okay, so over the next 2 years, where do you rank Travis Kelce as a dynasty tight end?
One.
Number one.
Next 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. Can we make a bet?
Sites
Like,
have him one in
we
redraft,
make a
and then
straight
Laporta too.
yeah, straight off the cuff bet right away. I'll bet you $100 that Travis Kelce does not finish tight end one over the next 2 years.
Why would I do that?
I'll give you plus 150 odds.
No, it's not even no.
Okay, so you're not that confident.
In a league that gets hurt, I mean,
Oh, I mean, shit. Can we bar injury? I don't know how we would do that.
Okay, so there's not a bet to be made because you're trying to take the field against one guy, and I'm never going to make a bet like that.
Well, you're smart. I don't have him in the top 5 over the next 2 years. So
You said you had Kyle Pitts in the top 5 over the next 2 years?
I threw Kyle in there. I think if he's ever going to be something, it's probably now with Kirk in that offense. And like Kirk has been known to throw to the tight end. Hawkinson was a top 2 tight end over the last 2 or 3 years with Kirk being the quarterback.
Hawkinson's on the PUP though. I don't think he's going to play for the first 4+ games.
Yeah, but we're talking about Pitts.
Oh.
So I'm saying like Kirk made Hawkinson a top 2 tight end in the league over his last 2 years. So
yeah,
you would have to imagine
that he was also up there in Detroit. I don't know if they're apples to apples, but Kirk does throw the tight end.
Hawkinson's been in Minnesota the last 2 years, right? Or 1 year and then 1 year
also
in Detroit.
Block.
Okay.
Kyle Pitts has serious issues being on the field. Like his snap count was low for a reason.
Possibly because they're not using him as a weapon, like
No, they use him as a receiver, and I mean, I just think people are too quick to crowning a guy who's still on a hype train. You have him over.
How do you feel about a guy
McBride? I think that's insane.
With the fucking Afghani leader, Taylor Swift, like bigger than Islam. Like, how do you feel about a guy that's like partying, won 2 Super Bowls, is 33 years old? Like, is he motivated to go out there and perform the way like he has in the past? Like, I mean, I don't know.
Him talk with his brother. He doesn't seem like he's the type that needs to jack himself up in the mirror in order to go play good football.
His brother went kind of seriously delirious right after he retired, like, or kind of on the way out of retirement. I think Travis Kelce's kind of near that. I don't know. I mean, he's got to break down at some point. I'm not a huge believer in Travis Kelce. I think here's my top five.
I mean,
I
he
would
could
say,
retire after this year. This is why over a 2-year sample, it's much closer. He's definitely, to me, he's in the top five. You said he's not in the top five.
okay, so in a contract league in BC, what are you paying for Travis Kelce if you're buying tomorrow? Like, what is, if he's in auction? What are you paying for him right now?
Well, this is for a different story, but I got him for $181 a franchise tag because nobody wanted to pay the 32nd pick for him. I don't know.
So you have Travis Kelce as a 200 almost dollar franchise tag, and then like year
In
three, he's
BC,
either
but I paid
retired.
400 for him for last year, so I could
Right.
franchise him.
Okay. Would you rather have Pat Fryermuth at $37 or Travis Kelce at $190?
Travis Kelce,
Yeah,
not
probably.
not close. Like you need
I don't
upside.
know.
You need
I'm
upside.
excited about Fryermuth. All right, so my top five tight end position is Laporta.
I think Laporta is a fair argument for one. If it's not Kelsey, it's Laporta.
I would go
And I was against him last year.
Andrews, McBride, Kincaid, maybe Bowers over the next 2 years, and then maybe Kelsey,
Without him
and
going.
then Pitts and then Kelsey.
Pardon
So
me.
I mean, he's still there. I mean, it's close. I
I'll
mean,
give
it's
you
close.
Kincaid because there's no one else to pass to.
Well,
McBride,
there are.
I think most people agree on McBride. I see McBride up there a lot.
I think probably honestly, if I was gonna pull one person out of that top five, I'd pull McBride out of there. I think he was kind of a situational person when they didn't have really anybody else to throw to him, and it wasn't Kyler throwing him the ball. And so it's like, check down to the tight end, just get the easy 5 to 7 yards, blah, blah, blah. And it's like now they have Harrison there. They have, other receiver, Michael Wilson on the outside, Colliers back. Like, I don't think the offense is going to run through McBride. I think McBride's talented, but I don't think if I was going to guess like value over, production, I would not put McBride in the same category as those other ones. But so I'm actually second guessing myself right now as we speak, but
I'm
that's
just
why it's
telling you what
unscripted.
I've seen.
No, no, I mean McBride's going way too high as far as I'm concerned. I mean he's gonna have to prove it this year for me to like really buy in. But yeah,
Do you think in BC that Patrick Mahomes for $43 is way too expensive?
no, that's a great price. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
What?
Is that what you have?
That's what Roman got.
Or are we just gonna like jerk each other's teams off, or like what are
No,
we
it's
talking about?
Roman. Roman.
Roman got him for $43.
Argo. Yeah, dude. Okay, let's go to the next segment, which is why do we have franchise bidding when nobody bids?
Right. No,
Well,
no.
he franchise tagged the Kansas City quarterback, and nobody bid on him, so he got him for $43.
Well, because I think the argument is like if you bid on him, you're spending the 43, which is cheap, no problem. Then you have to give up the first, so it depends on the first, right? And then it's like, okay, who's available? Like, I
Okay,
mean, I think the franchise tag bidding in BC there's no action, right? Like because nobody wants to give up their
no
first.
action in any of the leagues.
Well, okay, fair enough. But like, I think it's stupid. Like right now we have that going on in what is it? It's in BC. Like DJ Moore is going for $240. Like if I'm a competitor, like, and I have the cap, I'm spending $240 on DJ Moore and I'm spending my first,
But it's
or I'm
after
making
a
that
closed
person spend
hours.
300. But I'm making that person spend 300 because it's like that like in a league of that size, like DJ Moore is he's an asset,
Even if it
I mean,
costs you your next year's first round pick to do so.
could care less because my first round pick is number 32 next year.
Hmm.
So it's like
Here comes the
what am I getting?
back-to-back Astrisk championships. We're getting to get into.
Is that the next segment? Because I'm ready to go off the walls on that one. Like,
Your COVID championship, your
my
bubble
COVID
championship.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean 17-0. Yeah, absolutely. First undefeated, run of the history of BC. Yeah, sure. Asterisks because there was an MFL change between some defensive ends became linebackers, which did not affect my team whatsoever. Here's the thing.
That's the point.
George is a son of a bitch, man. He's a son of a bitch. And like he just needs to stay relevant. He's like I don't
He's living
know.
rent free in your
Have you
head.
ever heard of the brand Obey? Like he's like Obey. Like it's
Great
like
brand, Corey.
Obey was
I'd love to wear
Obey
it just to piss you off.
Obey was super cool when I first moved to San Francisco and was only in like skate shops in the Haight-Ashbury. And then Obey went into Walmart, and then it's like, oh, okay, I'm not wearing your shit ever again. And then it's like, so
So
Obey has to try to become relevant, and then they're just like, oh, you know, blah blah blah, and they throw something out in like a Target ad, and it's like, yeah, fuck off, man. I don't like your brand sucks. Like you know, you sold out. Like I don't think Georgia has any relevance, to be honest with you, in any league, in any chat room that I'm in, because he's never won a championship. He's never done anything. All he does is talk shit, talks negatively about other owners, dominates the chat room, tries to control the commissioner. And I think he needs to fucking, you know, grow the fuck up and like win something or shut the fuck up. That's my opinion. But like, you want to asterisk my 17-0 season? Cool, dude. Try to get one. Try to get one first, because he's not going to get there this year. I can guarantee that. He's not going to win the championship this year. He ain't going to win next year. He ain't going to win in CK either. So, like, fucking A, man. Win something, and then you can talk shit.
Winning this league was the worst thing that ever happened for this podcast. Jesus, Corey.
All right. So, how did I win the league then?
I'm not here to talk about that. We'll bring George on as a guest. He can give you one for your money.
Why? So he can show up in sunglasses and fucking pretend like he's fucking like a poker player, and you know, like he's a
Are you
different
gonna
person.
judge the brand he's wearing because they weren't $700? You fucking pretentious cunt.
I actually do not buy expensive sunglasses anymore because I've lost so many of them
Just
that
went
I
on a rant on where if Obey goes to a cheaper store, it's fucking disgusting to wear.
well, anybody that knows the Obey story is like will understand what I'm saying. I will imagine there's at least 2 or 3 people in
I
this.
just got 5 pairs of Reef flip-flops that I used to pay $60 for fucking $8 at Marshall's
Well, they're not real,
all
but that's
day,
fine.
all day. Yeah, they are.
No, dude,
They are.
like my favorite thing in life, like I know we're getting a little sidetrack here, but I'm a bargain bottom. Like I have a girl that goes to thrift stores and buys me like Ted Baker and John Varvatos like clothing, like for like $7. Like I don't pay top dollar for it. Like I just have an
Hey,
eye for it.
$7 at a thrift shop. That's pretty top dollar.
Yeah, but those shirts are like $300, you
Yeah.
know. So it's like, you know, I mean,
Go
it's
to
a
those
little out of
fancy
a
San
little out of
Francisco thrift shops.
Anywho, moving on. So one little segment I do want to like speak to is about the new owners. Like we've had a little bit of you know, a struggle with the folks that joined the league early. My brother being one of them. Like I'm like, dude, like I've been trying for 2 years to get him to join. Full disclosure, he's my legitimate brother. I love him to death. He knows football very well, but he's extremely intimidated. Like he doesn't know like how to even log on to the site and figure it out. I'm like, hey, you have to figure it out. You have to. Like I can help you like navigate things. You're never going to make like a huge mistake your first year because you can always bounce things off me, right? Or you or Georgia or the
Well, jumping
commissioner.
to
Like
the
nobody's
NFL,
like trying to fuck up over the new owners because of rules and stuff,
dude,
right? Like,
you
but they have
forget
to
you were
like they have
crying
to
like a
be.
little bitch when you came over to MFL for the first time. I had to walk
Oh
you
yeah,
through. I had to
yeah.
clean your ass and fucking put your diaper on because
Oh,
it's not user friendly in the sense that like a Yahoo or whatever other league that people are used to playing on. MFL is tricky. And then to your thing,
it's like the
you were
old
saying
school
like one of
text
the
message.
owners hasn't changed their icon. We're over in the two quarterback league, the new Godfather league there. So the commission just cut and paste the contract killers' names and pictures, assuming everyone would change it. But a lot of people didn't. So there's somebody with your picture from Contract Killers that confuses me every time because he doesn't know how to change the photo or doesn't care to. So
Well, I mean,
that's
I think
that's
that's the
over half the league over there. So there's a thing of Either people don't care, which is totally fine, or it's just like that's the next step of like, I don't know. It's the difference between somebody having you're like this one, Corey, MySpace, or somebody going and getting all those
MySpace.
plugins and getting the music auto and like all this other backgrounds and shit. And then there's people who are just like, I just want to go find bands and listen to
Well,
music.
I mean, and I think that's half the league, right? Like,
How
not
much does
everybody's
that
super
date you if you know
active.
MySpace? We
No,
that
I
in
certainly
your
know MySpace.
point?
That's where I know. Yes. You want to say hi? Okay, I'm gonna cover up your. Hi. Say hi.
Hey,
Okay, give me a kiss. You gotta go to bed now.
Daddy,
Yeah. What's up?
when you done with this, can you snuggle me?
Yes, I will snuggle you for a little bit. Okay. I'll check on you 3 times. I love you. All right, bye. Okay, thank you. Professional broadcast, folks.
if we don't get a thumbs up by everyone in this league after that beautiful moment, we
Real life, man. It's like,
our
I
league is
mean,
full of inhuman people.
yeah, it's
Smash
was
that
there,
like button and subscribe.
yeah. So the MySpace thing's relevant. Like, all I ask is that people like try to engage a little bit, like to their level, right? Like I'm kind of getting over the chat rooms at this point. I've been involved for 3 or 4 years. Like it's a lot, but like check the message board once a day, check your trade offers once a day, respond to the trade offers. Like most of them are shit.
It's
Like
chill.
find a couple people in the league that you like can rely on to like bounce ideas off of, like whatever, but like you have to engage. Otherwise, this league is pointless. It's like all the GMs across the NFL, I guarantee that they have every single GM on speed dial, and they're calling those people up and they're saying like, "Hey, blah, 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 blah." And the ones that can create the best relationships across the league are the ones that do the best, And
Maybe
I
just
feel
go
like
get
I've
a
done that
job with the
well. Like
NFL and make more money than this.
I have more people on text message in BC, I think, than anybody else. And like that's something that like I did right away. Like I was just like, hey man, you can always like just text me or like, chat with me. Like I'm always available. And it's like, I think that's important. It's like if you want to like do well in anything, like you have to be available and you have to like be honest and you have to like share with other people and you have to be like fair. I've had some of the worst like physical like or like verbal attacks from people through text message, but when you get them like on a phone call or through like a decent email thread, at least like it changes the tone of things, right? And so
Unless
I
you're in
think,
Sharky's 20 rum and cokes deep.
well, I'm always an asshole in that situation. Like,
No, you're always fun to trade with.
yeah, well, like give up the shop.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, I mean, the new owners they have to get involved and like stay away from the
New
junk.
owners, you guys are fine. You guys are fine. You're doing great.
And there's a lot of things that get talked about in our leagues because we're serious about it. Like we want to make it the best that we possibly can. Like Dan gets attacked a lot, like blah blah blah. Like, but I honestly think that it's one of the cooler experiences. I talk about it all the time with people. I mean, I'm like, you play fantasy football? Okay, cool. Let me tell you about what I do with fantasy football. And then I start with BC and I show them just like my roster on my phone. And they're just like, when are you going to stop scrolling? Like, I'm like, I can't. Like, and then I get in. It's awesome, man. And like, if you find your way to navigate it, it's a really cool community to be a part of. Just stay away from the noise, like, unless you want to get into it. And if you want to get into it, like, nobody hears like the other thing that I want to bring up a little bit about our league is like, cancel culture. It's like, I still do feel like this is a little bit of a locker room for us. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I was like getting a little worried about the podcast was because like, I'm talking to my best friend, like literally one of my best friends in life, like most of the time. And it's like, if we're putting that shit out there, man, like I don't want anybody getting like a fucking hard on for us because they had a bad experience in blue chip. And it's like, it's like we're all professionals. We all have our lives. Like, I
This
have
isn't Disney,
aspirations to do
Corey. We're
things.
fine.
Okay. Well, like I think at one point last year I showed my butthole on on camera and it's like, so got maybe
Nobody's
like,
sending that to corporate. Take it easy. We're not that
yeah,
big.
it's just like, don't be a Levi, and then like leave and then like threaten to like, take everybody down with you. That's the other thing. It's like, this is a cool group of dudes. Like nobody, like we all check ourselves, we all check each other, but like be cool, I mean, that's it.
I'll tell you one of the coolest things about being in this league is you get to know so much about football players that
Disgusting level. Yeah.
on a disgusting level, I'll give three quick examples and I won't make a career out of any of the stories. But one, I was in Chicago visiting my buddy Marty. We went out on the boat and met up with his friend Sarah Spain, who's on ESPN.
Oh,
I wasn't that familiar with her because we didn't get a lot of ESPN down here. I mean, we did Sharkies, but I don't watch the daytime stuff. But I was familiar with her, and I sat and talked to her about the Chicago Bears in ways she couldn't even believe. Like she
yeah,
couldn't believe I knew who was on her practice squad, that I knew
right.
who they drafted in the seventh round. She didn't know. She couldn't believe how I talked about their schemes, and she's like, how the hell do you have this much knowledge about football? And it's like, well, I play in this year-round 32 team league, and
Yeah,
at some point I have to do homework on all these people to figure out if there's like I can squeeze a dollar or two in. But the knowledge is really cool, and I got to use it twice on players. Like
yeah,
Roman and I, we were in the back of Sharkies, and in VIP there was, I don't know if I'm supposed to. Well, nobody's watching this. There's it was Chase. It was Chase Edmonds, Eno Benjamin, and Jonathan Ward, who were the running back room for the Arizona Cardinals at the time.
yeah,
And I think Chase already knew he was going to the Dolphins. But Jonathan Ward was like a special teams guy, right? And he was a running back, but I drafted him in BC. So I could show him he was on a fantasy roster and it just blew
right.
his mind. He's like, I don't even do anything. He's like,
Yeah. Well,
I was like, no, you
dude, like,
scored points for this week when you got that when you caught that pass on that special teams play. He's like, what is wrong with you guys?
yeah,
How do
we're
you
fucking
know who I
degenerates.
am?
We're degenerates.
Yeah, really cool. And then the other was a couple months ago, Jordan Poyer. And
Uh,
he found out he got cut down here. He was staying
right.
at a house behind my the Cost of Giving Tree, my house. He was staying
Yeah.
at one of the houses up on the hill.
Yeah. Of
Like
course.
I think I first talked to him
I'd
when
rather stay at
he
your
was a
house.
Bill, and then I saw him again, and he was like, he'd gotten
I
cut.
just
And
got
he's like,
moved.
no, I'm already going to Miami. I was like, oh, sick.
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, I'd rather stay at your house than any house in Tamarindo. But like, hey, don't flood the chat room trying to look for a freebie.
Or do it. Come on down.
Yeah, come on down. Yeah. Well, I think we should do a draft at Casa Giving Tree at some point, but we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to work on our karma and our vibes a little bit, I think, and discover who's gonna make that cut, to be quite honest.
I mean, if anybody comes to Costa Rica, I will show them the
Yeah,
talent.
samesies. Yeah, you're right. Samesies.
Come to
Even
Tamarindo.
Warren, like, hey man, if Warren's in San Francisco area and he's like, man, I'm here. Like, I'm like, dude, I'll meet you up. Just don't just don't send me a horrible trade offer right before we meet up.
Hey, man.
It's like,
You know what?
like, we got
Warren's in every damn league, man. I mean, the dude's a gamer.
he's a gamer for sure. Absolutely.
Gamer.
No,
I don't like his trades a lot either, but like I don't. There's a lot of people's trades I don't like, and some people just start. I think Warren always wants to start from the far away, get to the middle.
let's go there. Let's go there. Let's ask that question, like, because I think it's important. Like, what does it like? What turns you off when you get a trade offer? Like, because like Roman turns me off. Like, I mean, it has taken many of battles to like get deals with Warren. Like, you and I like usually have a pretty good rapport. Bauer, like the other part of the Costa Rica mafia, like you just can't get a
Warren
deal
doesn't
done.
trade very much in general, but I think if
Yeah,
he
he's got an asshole that is. I mean, you can't get the 45-year-old, pinky up that shit. Like, even if you're a doctor, it's like you're not getting in. But
He's
like,
saving it for when he's got to, get that prostate checked.
what turns you off about like a trade offer, right? Like, is it? I mean, just give me like 3 examples.
When it feels like it's too many counters to get to something reasonable.
Okay.
Because
So
if you
you want to
send me
go in
something, if you send me something that I feel like I have to, because like if I can't respond to it close enough to where I'm comfortable with the counter, then it's just a
Mm,
bad reason to counter. And so a lot of people start
yeah.
so far away and they may know that, they can justify valuations and that's what people want to do. But like I start doing that when we're close. But when
Right.
you're really far away, and granted, valuations are so different from person to person. I think
Absolutely.
one thing that Warren does specifically, and I don't think this is incorrect, it's just very different to where I approach things, is he will look at draft capital previously used as a strong point versus current
Evaluation of a.
performance, right? So you gotta, which is okay in a lot of cases, especially with tight ends and some DNs that have to like get there. But if you're gonna hold on to a first round draft capital and hold that guy to that, and we can't get down because that guy's getting 20 points a game, you can't
Hey,
take in all
hey,
the upside when
Lavisha Chenault is like, I mean, at
wait a minute.
$72 on a contract, like, hey man, like, he's worth, because he was drafted. Like, well, I mean, come on, man. Like, I think for
He's not
me,
the
it's
only
like,
one that
do you,
approaches
do you
trades in
think I'm
that
an idiot?
way.
Like, here's where I get like a bit twisted. Like, I think it's okay to throw out offers. Like, I like the action personally. Like, it just keeps like things alive all year round, right? And like, there's no bad trade offer. Like, as long as you're being somewhat realistic, and it's like, hey, man, I've been in these leagues with you for 3 years. Do you think I'm a fucking idiot? Like, and if I get the feeling that you think I'm an idiot, like I'm just not responding. And like I'll let your offer sit for 7 days, or I'll just be like, I'll fire off the most ridiculous counter that's like, it's not even close. Like, I'll give you another example. Mandy and I like have never really done deals. And it's like we finally kind of over time across multiple leagues, like, I mean, I know we want to be BC specific here, but like we're like, all right, man, like I kind of understand what your style is. Like, I'm a good owner. I'm not gonna give you shit for fucking, like I'm gonna do my due diligence. But he's like, he's coming around. He's like, I can't take advantage of Corey, but I don't want to also give him anything for free. And I think my thing is like I'm open to deal, right? Like I want to deal. Like I'll like George always says, I'll lose some and I'll win some. And I'm always like, if you look at my track record in BC, like I've lost a lot of deals. Like Gabe Davis, one of them,
Roman,
probably.
Roman and Georgia probably have the most trades in that league, I think.
Yeah, I mean that would be an interesting study to go back and look at like who's made the most deals.
I
But like,
remember Georgia doing like 10 trades in like a week, and then Roman's dealing Argo for everyone out there. Argo's dealing 365 days.
Yeah, but I also think it's like some people's knowledge base, like even in a league of this like depth, is like they're different, right? So because Sean likes Gardeck, the Arizona defensive end, like he's like, oh, I value him, and like he had a great year. Like he was like adamant, like that this guy was going to be something, and so he's trying to sell him for a value that's like at a $4 contract, like at the Sam Hubbard level,
Well, hold
or
on,
when.
hold on. There's 2 minutes left on this bid, and Warren's on the clock for Levante
Let's
David.
see.
I'm gonna bid him up real quick and see if I can.
Oh, a little sniper action.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can sniper him. There it is, $56. Just took him to 2 minutes. Oh man, who is it? Georgia that hates snipers? Who, or is it Sin? Somebody hates snipers so much in the league. This is what happens when I get sniped out of too much money, everyone's just gonna suffer. I like Levante.
I just got
Sorry,
a
Warren.
text.
No hard feelings.
Just
Him and I have been going back and forth on that. Anyways, non-BC related, so Georgia would probably lose his shit right now if he's listening to this. So we'll get right back on track, Georgia.
So sorry to bring this up, but I just got a text message from my college basketball coach and one of my best friends. I play college basketball, and he said my guy's starting to make some noise. He's a high school basketball coach at the highest level in Kansas, and he says he's picked up offers from UTEP, Montana State, Loyola Chicago, and Santa Clara. Corey Hahn like hops. That's what he says. And so Kevin McKenna says, does he only drive
How
right?
long have you been holding this text message for?
Because it just popped in. He says, "Does he only drive right like
You've been holding this since
driving?"
February.
So they're fucking with me just like everybody else fucks with me. But I mean, it's interesting shit. Yeah, that was
Oh, he was
always
dissing
weird.
you. I thought he was giving you your flowers.
Well, I think a lot of people diss me because they like me. Because if you're not getting dissed, you're not really well liked. Like I think that's kind of a thing over the history of time. But if you're not getting made fun of, like you're doing something wrong.
If you're
A
not
little,
first or last type of stuff.
yeah, yeah. 17-0. That's all I can say.
Yeah, oh, by the way, were you talking earlier about the same Mandy who had his entire team get hurt when you finally played him and you got a free win against him in the playoffs?
What? Why is this like even a question? Like I definitely beat some better
Mandy told
teams.
me I needed to remind you. It's in the chat. Go check it out, bud. He
I don't
told me,
have it.
he
What did he say?
said, he lost Andrews and he lost like three guys when he played you. And he was top heavy, so we knew that was always going to be a problem.
Bro, like I mean, the injuries are real for sure. Like
Not
I
for
mean,
you.
that is
You
definitely
didn't have a
bad.
single injury in the entire year. That's why you went 17-0.
Well, T. Higgins was out. Herbert was out. I lost a linebacker at some point. I had depth. I always could feel a team that could score points and at least 200 to 20 points on average. Like, and for whatever reason, after 3 years of being in the league, taking over the shittiest fucking orphan that nobody wanted and making a lot of mistakes, I found my way into, success. And it's like, where does that come from? I didn't make a lot of mistakes. Like as far as draft picks, I had very few. Um, I mean, I did make some good decisions, and I did get people for cheap that nobody wanted, and I plugged them in, and they performed, and that's it. Like that's how you win. It's like if you can score 220 points in BC on a regular basis, you have a better chance of winning that week than anybody else does. It's a hard thing to do,
If you can
but it
average
is
200,
possible.
you're right there. That was
200 you're
200. If you can go 200 a game, you're in the playoffs. And then you can get hot. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll be the first one to say, like I was extremely surprised that I had the season I had last year. Like, but like I do think that I put together a very deep team, and I made some moves that were great. Like I mean I did. Like there's no question. But like for it to go 17-0 is like, come on, man. Like that, there's certainly luck involved with that. Like you're facing Brad when AJ Brown fucking, is like
Yeah, I mean, if we went game by game,
it's just it's
we
it's
could probably
crazy.
find three or four you shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
It still
Yeah.
doesn't mean you won the belt or B made the playoffs.
I mean, I was a playoff team no matter
Well,
what,
getting the
but
bye in that league is so big
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
I mean,
there's when it gets to the playoffs, the teams are all good enough to win it in the
but
playoffs.
saying I have an asterisk is just fucking stupid. Like it's just fucking stupid. Like, I mean, there's no
I don't
asterisks.
know,
Like,
man. I mean, they say it about the Lakers in the bubble. I don't see why it doesn't apply here.
but nobody's given me any reason as to why that's the same. Like,
Yeah, rule
but
changes and positional changes that affected
okay,
the
so how did that affect my
stars that
team?
beat. I
How did
just
that?
it sounds like
Nobody
a
knows. Like,
very logical, sound argument of why you got away with one, Corey. That's all I'm gonna say.
okay, so I will challenge anybody to look back in the history of last year and say, how did the MFL changes affect the roster that I had, and then lay that out. And then if there's an asterisk, go fuck
I think
yourself.
George
I'm a
was sad that
17
he
0
accumulated 17 plus linebackers and none of them worked out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I bought old ones. I bought old ones for cheap. You know, I bought Daniel Hunter for a late second round, and he fucking went off after a contract year and freaking carried a lot of my team. You
Oh,
know, it's like, I mean,
took
you
me
gotta
to
like you gotta be willing to make
the
mistakes.
belt and CK.
Yeah, well, anyway, okay, let's move on. Let's not talk about
Name is
me.
Danielle, not Danielle.
I can do that all day long. But okay, let me ask you this question. Because we play in so many leagues together, who are your top 5 favorite rookies out of the top 15 of this draft class?
I'm not going to answer that before we've done our draft in BC.
Oh, okay. I only have so you know, like
I
that's
know
a
whose yours are. Anyone from Iowa or who's white. That's who you go for. Spoiler alert, just go look. But
what can we talk about then, Ben? If we can't talk about our favorite, our top 5,
I
I think. Okay, let me ask you this question: is running back like extremely undervalued, or is it like on par? So, like the first running back out of what I've seen is going at like around pick 6. So, what's going on with the running back position, and like how does that? Because you only need to start 2, and you have 22 other positions to fill, and it's usually always like a 3-headed backfield. Like, so unless you get like a top, 10 running back, and then like what's your hope for the second running back position, and like how does that impact your decisions on draft day, like going after a weak running back class versus like, okay, I'm deep out, it's a deep wide receiver class, for instance, like without giving specifics of who you like.
Okay, I can address this super easy. So this is not a deep wide receiver or running back or anything class when it comes to BC, because as soon as the first 2 rounds are over, it's just all
Correct.
hit
Yeah.
at the wall. Like,
Right.
and so you're just trying to navigate through that, you know? So what we'll see is, we'll see more wide receivers go off the board, but we're also probably going to see more, I don't know, undrafted running backs be relevant, and 6th round and 5th round running backs, because only like 5 running backs were taken in the first 4 rounds, right? And that actually, that's probably not right. It might be less. Um, so the whole thing is, we know that running backs continue to come out of nowhere. Running backs continue to churn out, and they continue to be undervalued. So where you're right, it's just, I believe we're not going to really, like, it's harder for the running back value to be gauged in our modern NFL, in the modern draft, real NFL draft, which is now fair enough to put a premium on somebody like, if you want to take Brooks on 3rd, I just don't see anything wrong with it. Like, if you want to take these running backs higher that have a roster spot, and will get touches, and will get points, that's somehow better than every other guy that comes after that. That could be a practice squad guy, or could be a starter. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about in previous years, is that used to happen all the time, but there was way more draft capital put into running backs. So you could get like a Sam J. P. Ryan taken on 6 overall as the 3rd, 4th running back off the board, and he sucks ass, and you're wrecked. But like,
So
it,
how do you feel about like me trading Samaje P. Ryan for Adam Thielen after week 6, and then using Adam Thielen to win BC? Like, I mean, the same price basically. Like,
it has no
P.
relevance on this current conversation other than you
I
being
just, I mean, horrible move, right? Like, just fucking asterisks on that shit, obviously.
I love how you're just going to interrupt to always talk about your fucking championship. This is going to be the worst year ever. This is why we should skip a year for doing pods. This is
Hmm.
really bad. So,
Yeah.
anyways, the point is,
Am I
he
afraid of me?
has draft capital as a running back in a time where people won't put draft capital. So I think it's interesting, and then it gets gross. There's like,
So I think you were landing on a point earlier. You said something, I think it's really poignant. It's like, we all have kind of the guys in the top 64-ish, I would say. Like, I mean,
Not this year, I
you
don't
can,
know.
well,
Every
okay,
draft I've
but
seen
you can
is
draft,
super
like, you
different.
can draft the DN, and your DN's going to play, and so you're going to get points there, and you're maybe bypassing on a wide receiver that could be something, but maybe not. Like, so taking risk versus reward there, like, so being somewhat cautious about how you build your team and like that draft capital. And I think we play in multiple leagues together, right? Like, and I think the first 12 to 16 players off the board, like, I mean, everybody's like, you took Lad McConkey and your startup, like at 14 with 2 QBs, like, and you were happy to get him there, right? Like, so great. Lad gets taken there. You have Lad in that league, you root for Lad. Like, wonderful. But when you get into like the third round, the fourth round, like that's where you can start to kind of really draft and like have more knowledge about a player's history, his draft capital, his like situation going into a team. And I think that's where GMs that are really savvy start making a difference. And so like the depth of knowledge, like we want to call it luck, but I do think that there's to be had after the first 32 even to 48 picks that like if you hit on those guys as opposed to someone that's going to be go to your taxi squad and never play, and like they're going to score points for you long term, and you get them on a relatively cheap contract, you're going to win. You're going to win over time. Like I think the first year that I'm almost puking on my nicotine addiction right now.
What that
It's just
was, I was wondering, if, what he had in that little coming out. I think he figured he had some false teeth or something, trying to get the
oh
fake
man,
lights on for the
these
show.
nicotine patches are just like ugh. You don't have them in Costa Rica, but it's coming. Or I can get you a shipment.
Of nicotine patches, I've quit cigs for, I don't know, 11 years, so I'm good.
Good for you, dude. I'm a hardcore nicotine addict, and like the Zins or the Ons or whatever fucking brand that you choose, like we should try to get sponsored by them. That'd be
Right.
awesome. I haven't smoked a cigarette for 2 years. It's only because I just put straight nicotine in my mouth and I'm good. But anyway, um, let me get hold on. Let me
Get yourself another one of those quick fixes, Corey. Get a quick fix in there, buddy.
fuck yeah. Um, so I think if you use your draft capital wisely, like there's people that are you're gonna hit like so like Roman, like he has what how many first round draft picks? Tons, tons. Like okay, you got to hit on all, but like you're gonna hit, but you've given up so much for that. Like and BC is so deep that like it doesn't really matter if you hit on Troy Franklin at pick 26, right? Like, and Troy Franklin becomes the wide receiver one. Good for you. That's like Amon St. So let's revisit history.
Ma St. Brown, Gabe
Yeah,
Davis.
exactly. I traded Gabe Davis for Monra St. Brown and Stevenson. Horrible trade. Horrible trade. But Mike took that player at that position. I mean, like I didn't see Monra St. Brown going earlier. He's the top 5 dynasty wide receiver as of today, right? So, like a lot of people will just be like, like it's not even about those picks. It's about what you do with your roster outside of that, and how you manage it, and like how you like spend your capital, like and fulfill your team. Like I'll look at my roster right now. I'm going at I went after safeties because I know I can get 10 to 12 points per game off of my safety position. I didn't realize that in my first year in BC, right? I'll take those 10 to 12 points. I have 3 good safeties that I can line up every day. So if I start a running back that only gets me 2 points, well, and someone else gets 20 and like they don't have a safety, I'm still balanced there. Like if I have a defensive tackle that score, like so it's like it is a full roster of points being scored, not just like the number 1 or number 2 guys. And in BC, if you're only playing towards the studs, you're going to lose because the chances are one of your studs is going to get hurt. Like that, like, I mean, like, and if you're fully invested in the studs, bro, good luck, man. Like, you have to have Braxton Berrios that costs you $75 at auction, like that gets you 130 points. You have to have like people, you have to understand the kickoff game. You have to like, it's so fucking challenging. And it's like to dismiss anyone that does it year over year, like is stupid because time will prevail, like based off of who's always in the playoffs and who's always competing versus who's always rebuilding or I'm going to figure it out if I get Jamar Gibbs from Roman by trading N'Kobe Dean and some shit, like, sorry Roman, but I got you there.
I think I'm drafting my first time in the first round with my own pick. I'll probably trade it at some point, who knows, during draft. But I've never had my own pick. And I've never
Trade
had, I've never had my own pick in BC.
right.
I don't think ever.
Wow.
Since the startup. Because I always leverage the following year. Because I was
Right.
building a franchise to continue to compete. I think this is like the second time I ever make the playoffs, third maybe,
Oh.
history of this league. Because I never rebuild. This is like the first time I kind of gutted my roster to try and get some pieces to do a rebuild. Because
Yeah.
I've always been able to find value when I need to find value. So it's just like, okay, well, it's cool if you keep finding value, but a lot of times when you find value with guys, they don't last long. So you got to trade them.
Hmm.
And we were talking
Well,
about
that's
without
the
a
other thing.
draft capital.
You gotta move on quick. And it's like I think
Or Nate Landman, man. It's like if you got the right guy, mid-season last year, he was an absolute beast because he came in from an injury.
well, I mean,
Duffy too is another one of those that I thought was going to be psycho this year, and then they draft two linebackers. So you just don't know. You don't
I
know.
think I
That's
paid
more
a
on
first and
defense. That's
second
more on
for
defense.
I think
But
I
you
paid a
know the
first and a second
elite
for
elite.
Tony, like Kadarius Tony, right?
Uh,
Like I was like, oh, and then I watched like one interview with Kadarius Tony. I was like, I do not want that guy on my team. And like I instantly said, I'm okay. So I paid a first and second for him. I gotta get maximum value. I just went out. And like I wasn't afraid to like get top dollar for him. I just didn't want any part of him anymore. Like, and so I moved on from him. I got like what I thought was really good value for him. And like I turned him into like two other players. And it's like those are the type of moves that like either win or win or lose. Like if Kadarius Tony returns to form and he's awesome and he's a stud, then I'm a fucking loser. But if he doesn't, and I got Devin Lloyd and someone else, like it's like okay, like I have other pieces that I can move around, like that are to me more valuable, and like I don't have to question like whether or not they want to play football or if they're going to be on the team next year. Like I think that's like smart GMing, and you only know when they're like on your team and you're just like, hey, it's like do I need him? Do I want that fucking struggle to have him on my team?
well, like I drafted Stephon Diggs in this league, and I owned him for 8 years.
Hmm.
Ask me how that worked out. That was awesome.
Well, I think
Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be on Penn's team unless he trades him. And he's going to be so there's like yes and no. Aaron Jones has been on. I drafted Aaron Jones. No one's owned Aaron
yeah,
Jones.
but they're not troublemakers, I mean, Stephon Diggs maybe a little bit, but like, I mean,
No,
Kadarius
I'm
Tony.
just telling you, when you hit a guy in the draft, uh, you know, it's in this league, if you have an elite player that stays elite for 7, 8 years, it's hard to do when you're fishing on 6 round picks and undrafted free agents, even when they work out, they're
How valuable do you think the round, like, so like you touched upon something that I think is really interesting, like especially when you're competing, it's like, okay, I went 17-0 last year, great. Like I have a pretty good squad this year. I feel like I'm gonna make the playoffs regardless. But like, do I invest all my draft capital this year to like spend on 2 or 3 picks that are going to, be contributors? Like, or do I say, well, I don't know, like those are like tough GM decisions. I'm at a point where I'm like, I don't really care about wild card 5, 6, 7 or 5 and 6, 4, 5, 6, even third round picks. Like I'd rather use that on a person that is already proven that I know is going to score points. He might be old, but like blah blah blah. I'll pay for that for some owner that wants to like rebuild, and I'll be like, okay, give me Levante David for early, a late second and early third. And like, I'm just done because I know, like, as a linebacker that's going to score almost 200 points, like, I'm getting 200 points. And like, I think a lot of people just hold on to draft capital way too long because, and
But again,
also
to my
future
point,
draft capital,
yeah, I
because you
used
can always buy in for more draft capital. You can always buy in for more draft capital, right? So it's like, as long as you're going to be here for a while, like what fucking difference does it make if I get 2 contributors that are already proven? I'd rather spend all my draft capital on those 2 contributors to get something that's going to produce for my team and help me win on a weekly basis. That's a strategy that I'm fully committed to. I no longer care about future draft picks. I will use all my future draft picks to get to a position to win right now. Like that's something that I'm doing across all leagues. Like I don't have any of my picks except for in BC because we're going into the super pot next year after this year. And I'm like, all right, I think if I look at my roster and my capital, like I can afford to lose these guys. I'll be able to buy a few, like blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm not sure if I really want to invest that yet. But like, come draft day, sure as shit, I'm going to be like, here's my 1 through 8, and I need 2 players to contribute this year, next year. That's it.
Yeah, but I also recently saw or heard a stat. I'm gonna screw it up. I think it's 45%, but it might be 65. It's either 45 or 65%. It's a huge swing. But even if it's 45%, is let's say it's 45%. 45% of all NFL snaps are played by undrafted free agents.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So in light of that, the argument of, well, these late things don't matter and these undrafted free agents, you can like they're going to get on rosters and they're going to matter at some point. The crazy thing is like Alukan Foyesade, right?
Yeah.
He's top 5 linebacker. He was undrafted free agent for the Atlanta Falcons. I
Right.
paid $33. This is back when it was only 10% to keep a guy on your taxi squad. So it was like people bid him up a lot. I owned him on my taxi squad and then traded him after 2 years because he hadn't become something.
Right. Now he's the
That
best
third
linebacker.
year, he became the nuts, and then he got extended, and then and I'm telling you, with undrafted free agents, it would blow your mind if we went just down the list of everyone's roster, and I'd be like, I owned him, I owned him, I owned him. Because the problem with undrafted free agents in a contract league, or even not a contract league, you have to wait for them to work out. They don't always work. They're not all Ivan Paces, where they're just like out the gate doing stuff. But like I've owned so many of the undrafted free agents that end up being beasts. But it's hard to hang on to them when you only get a 3-year contract. So I don't know, it's tricky. I noticed a lot of good value, and this is probably giving a lot of stuff away. Is I notice in trying to find those guys, 5th round to undrafted free agents that get cut and then get on another team that you can get for cheap, I think is kind of a good way to bargain basement hunt in auctions, right?
Absolutely.
Just you get to take some gambles on some dudes who are in their 4th year on a new team and cross your fingers and hope it works. And when it does, it really pays off. And if it doesn't, probably didn't have to pay a lot for them, so it's not going to kill you. So there's some
Yeah.
there's some newbie lot.
What are your like over the I mean, you guys basically started me on my fantasy football journey, like when I first moved to Costa Rica, like what we'll call it 15 years ago, right? And I remember first time I even joined a Yahoo league, and then like I didn't have enough money actually to join these Paragon leagues when I was living there. But like when I left, like you're like, okay, like you need to kind of do this. So like what do you think for you is the enjoyment of being in these these type of leagues versus like a normal Yahoo league?
Um, for me, the the biggest thing, like I can't play in regular leagues. I mean, we have a home league in Yahoo, and I don't pay attention. I don't like them, and I don't really,
Much luck, too much,
I don't
very,
like non-contract leagues anymore. I don't play in
yeah,
them,
correct. Yeah.
and that's the curse of coming over to these MFL contract leagues is because being able to entertain yourself with fantasy football year round outside of maybe February, right? In January, February, but you're watching playoffs and Super Bowl and who cares? And then it's like you kind of need a break, but all of a sudden the shit just comes on you quick. And like, I don't know how much you had to overpay attention to stuff. I mean, let's put it this way. The media machine is making you pay attention to football year round now. It didn't used to. It used to be hard to get draft coverage and find combine stuff and workouts and like that stuff wasn't. Now it's just the hype machine has all that in front of our faces now. So it's kind of these leagues suit us for modern times much more because what are you doing with all that knowledge? You're gonna sit there
How much time do you think that you spend on fantasy football in your day-to-day life?
like in a given day.
Right. Checking the app, looking at, whatever information that you have coming in, like
I'm
being
probably
in the,
more active on information than I am in like league sites. I'm not doing much on league sites.
yeah.
Unless I find a guy I really want to trade for, or I feel like, maybe I'm hungover the night.
How much information do you like over like some of the top analysts in the world, will we say? Like, do you use them as like a starting point for your like decisions, or do you like have people that you kind of trust and you use them as like kind of maybe 75% of your decision making process?
I mean, I listen to 5 podcasts, so
Yeah.
I, I have to say that they all influence me, but I also, let's see, I listen to 5 podcasts, I watch 2 YouTube channels, and all that's going on in the background while I'm doing work.
Right. Yeah. So I would say like on an average day, I'm spending 3 to 4 hours on fantasy football. Like whether like I'm doing other stuff while I'm doing it, but like I'm constantly feeding like information into my brain, whether it's through checking sites, reading articles, like listening to podcasts, and then like I use that as kind of like my baseline to make my own decisions, and then like feed me kind of ideas, and then I go figure it out, and it's like, and then I think the other part that is really interesting is like, especially in a league like BC, like you can't get information on guys that are going to be relevant to like being successful, right? So like you can't find who the undrafted free. Well, maybe you can. I don't know. We don't share
And
that kind of
there's
information.
some
We have
guys,
like
there's some guys who will dive deep because they know there's deeper leagues. Most of those are doing it for 16 team leagues, so they're not even thinking about what we're going through. Nobody's
no,
thinking about what we go through. It's not
no, I
even
don't think so.
radar. And um
So then do you watch tape on people? Like so like for instance, I can be completely unaware of like the IDP rankings going into a draft. Like and I know my picks, I'm like, okay, like and I'll look around like where people are going and then I'll start kind of hovering like where I think I can land a player and then that's kind of where I pinpoint, okay, these are people that I need to target, and then like I'll watch film on those people for like to make my decision. And it's not like just like 30-second clips. I'm like, and then I'll do histories on their character and like where they came from and blah, blah, blah. And like that's how I'll make my picks. It's like you have to be fully committed, I think, in order to be successful in these leagues. Like you can't just be like an average Joe that's like, oh, I think I understand football. like you have to like be taking information in from a lot of different sources. You have to kind of challenge your own eyes. You have to like figure out like what you're trying to accomplish within your own team structure, and then like figuring out, okay, then we have contracts. Like, so how do I like invest in this player versus this player? And like, is he going to make, so I like going to like, team depth and figuring out, on Twitter where, people are, like schemes and shit on defense. It's like, it gets so fucking complicated. Like, I think one of the things
A
that
lot
you're,
of layers to it, and you got to pick your battles because you can't do it all.
yeah.
For
So like,
the most part, like, I mean, I have different things I do in different phases of the moon when it comes to the years on this league. I mean, the one thing that I'll always have to do for blue chip that I won't always do before the draft, but I'll do before the auction is,
keep it snappy. Keep it snappy, brother.
well, I do that during the year, but that only helps me in the other leagues. That doesn't help me in BC. It
I
might
think
help me with the start and sit, but it doesn't help me. There's
I
a lot
think
of
your IDP knowledge is I mean, I don't know how many people that I could put on this podcast and put in front of you that would know more about IDP players than you. Like, I mean, maybe not
just
rookies,
because I
but like,
listen to them, but
but
I
I think that's such a huge advantage. It's like
but
because
even what you're talking about in the analysis process, it's like like I get Matt Waldman's report, and when you read how that guy breaks down who's going to be good and not in a scouting format and in a analysis format to the hips opening and like all that stuff, if you're going to tell me you can watch film and do what he does, you can't. So I don't
no,
try.
I agree. I mean,
There's eye test stuff that you see it and you're just like, I feel that, but that doesn't always
yeah,
work
it's
out. But
like
guess what? These
you
guys
said
don't.
something about Blake Cashman has the green dot, like, and like he's like
Yeah,
he's
but
gonna be the guy.
that's local beat reporting. That's a whole different one. So that
Right.
again, you
Right.
got to pick your battles. If you want to go and just listen to, find local beat writers and hear what's going on in camps, that will give you some edge. But like that's ridiculously time consuming to try and cover 30
Ridiculously time consuming.
teams.
Yeah.
Like I do it for the Vikings because they're my team. I do it probably a little more now because we had this weird thing where we were drafting a quarterback most likely and didn't know what we were going to get. You knew who you were going to get the whole time for the Bears.
Right.
So it was just interesting to see what was going on. But I mean, when you listen to those beat reporters who are at OTAs and are watching how they're practicing, they're going to be like, well, this guy's doing this. And
Yeah.
you can get that, though, all that accumulates onto some podcasts, but sometimes that information just comes too late. Like we're in an auction right now, man. Like
Right.
auctions almost should be in
It's
July
very early.
because by July you have massive reporting and you have people who are bringing that information to like other people, so you can listen to a podcast and be like, "This is the guy." Somebody will talk. Just watch a podcast on somebody talking about three down linebackers, and you're like, "Cool, I got it. I know who's looking like they're the starter." But when you got to do it this early with free agent signings, and you got to see in like OTAs and stuff, like how they're lining up, plus guys are missing, like it's all a guessing game. And it
Yeah.
gets so much clearer later, and that's, thank goodness, in some ways we draft in blue chip when it gets a little clearer, because we always draft almost every time the blue chip is like the last draft we do almost always.
Can I ask a serious question?
Yeah.
Does my face look fat?
Yeah,
No.
I'm looking
Okay.
at mine versus yours, and it's wild because I'm way more overweight.
No, I mean, like, I have a big face. I always have had a big face. I can't change my bone structure. Like, I do not have, like, there's no,
I think if we went to the podcast 2 years ago, you would see that you've let yourself go.
that's actually the complete opposite. But yeah, if you went back 10 years, like, I'd be super skinny. That would be considered
The
like
rum and
just like,
coke Sharky's days, you were in your prime.
anyway. Um, So how do we wrap this up to make it like a little teaser for everybody, like to enjoy the evening? I have to go to Tahoe tomorrow. Like my dad's coming to town. Super excited about spending time with him. Probably going to embellish some stories. obviously, because that's what dads and children's do, together, but like, so how do we make this something that people want to watch again? What what
Well,
what segment can we cover?
we'll do the draft when the draft's done. That's the easiest thing. You want to talk about draft, but it's just it's silly to talk about prospects and draft until we've done our drafts. And the good thing is we'll do blue chip and contract at the same time. We can probably, while the draft's still going, if we want to set a time to do the first couple rounds and talk about it, we can do that. That's always fun. And then it's like even then, like this league's too competitive. We're gonna start talking you're already giving away green dot information and we haven't had the auction yet. I mean, like, killing me, Smalls.
I think Cashman's already he's already
He's going for
signed.
cheap, he's not going anywhere. But point being, like, I think what we want to do is to be able to openly speak about what we think about the players and stuff like that. And I like doing that a lot more. I hate tiptoeing around making takes, you know, because we're gonna draft and then we're gonna auction and then our
Well,
opinion.
I think maybe we can do some segments where it's like, okay, who's the top 10 ranked teams going into the season, and like, like kind of make your predictions there, and like give people kudos and try to figure out like who we have to take down, and all that stuff. Like, I think that's kind of interesting stuff to talk about. Like, everybody likes hearing something about their team, so we can definitely bring it.
Once they're finished, they're always fun to go over and talk about.
Yeah, like first and
Talk about
foremost,
my trash ass team times two, even though we haven't drafted or done free agency yet.
well, we're pretty competitive. I would say like any new owner that wants to come on, show their face, like that's always welcome. I
Yeah,
think that's what Ben and I do really well is like we don't have a lot to hide, It's like we are who we are, so like people can
we're
see
not
us.
confrontational either.
Understand,
We get
I
on
think
each
that's
other's
cool.
case, but we're good with guests if you haven't seen it before.
No, yeah, absolutely. Like, if you want to show your face and talk fantasy football, like
Unless
we're
it's
here.
Georgia. If Georgia comes on again, we're gonna give him
I
a
might,
real
might
good.
sit out. I might sit out that episode, to be honest with you.
Nah,
Like,
man.
but
Georgia,
yeah,
we're gonna have if we can get Georgia and Sin on a
all
podcast.
right. Yeah, no. If Sin wants to join the next one, I'll allow the same space with
Make
Georgia.
sure we're
Like,
all drinking the equal amount of alcohol and
yeah.
also have lots of labels on the screen for
I think
people.
Mike's also a great guest. Like Mike was, he came on one time last year, I think,
Yeah.
and it might have been the asshole show. Like, I don't even know if it aired, but
Well, we
I'd love,
put
love to get Mike back on.
we were getting
Dan,
off the rails because we were just we were going live randomly, wasted, and then throwing it in the chat and having people on. It's probably not
it
a
was
good
crazy.
idea, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, we tried to hone it a little bit, but
I'm okay with it.
in any regards,
We're not cashing any paychecks anywhere soon here, Corey.
no, it's just checking in and hanging out and talking. I love you, bud. You know that.
I love
I
you
gotta go, man. I
and
think
your
I'm.
bubble championship. No matter how many times we have to talk about it this year.
No, I'll try to ease back. Like, to be quite honest, like I'm not that arrogant. Like, I kind of am, but I'm not like that arrogant. Like, I mean, that was one thing that kind of like hurt me a little, man. It's like I've been friends with you for 15 years, and like you think that I embellish it. Like, I don't really embellish anything. So
Oh,
I'll
don't do it.
I'll gladly ask anybody to say what I've embellished over my 44 years of life. Like, gladly, gladly talk about it. But like,
You're doing it right now. That's what's so
no.
disgusting,
What have I embellished on?
dude. First of all, we don't have enough time. Second of all, be comfortable in your damn skin that you fucking embellish on everything. And that's fine.
Okay. All right.
Holy
Yeah, I don't
crap.
know.
You
I don't
take it
tell
personal, and that's just weird.
I don't tell lies. Don't tell
Nobody
lies.
said about anything about lies, as long as there's a hint of truth in there.
A lot.
Just
A
a
lot of
hint.
hands.
Just a
A
little
lot of
hint.
hands.
That's all you need.
Big juicy hands that grab that big fat ass.
I got the
All right.
job, not how I got the job. The rest of that was all bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Okay.
for another story. That's just one off the top, dude. It's okay.
What job? What are you talking about?
Don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, if you have
We
anything
had
that you
these
want to bring up,
conversations when you were here in Costa Rica. We don't need to have them on a podcast. I told you all these incidences where these was the case. As you were embellishing at my house over and over about stories, and I had to tell you what you. Anyways, don't worry about it. You take
yeah,
it personal,
I
like
like
you take it
privately,
personal, like
I'd like some details on that because I don't think that I've ever lied about anything that I've ever done in my
all
entire life.
lying. But it's like you're. It's like that movie Big Fish. It's like there's the story of what happened is in there, and then it's just sometimes it gets out of hand, and that's okay.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Usually when I'm telling my stories, I include really good friends in my life and like I tell and I build them up a lot more than they
Yeah,
build
but when
me
your
up.
friend knows the story you're telling is inaccurate, even though they're involved, it's still an embellishment, even though it's nice. And
Seems like
that's why it's not
seems
an
like
insult. People like
seems
it.
like people like kind of tend to want like
Making
always
people feel
to like
good and being a little steered from the truth that might be shitty is not a is part of being friendly.
just feel like sometimes I'm always someone that's trying to build other people up and like make them feel good. And I always talk about them very nicely. And then when I do pretty well at things, like people want to kind of try to tear me down. And like I find that to be exhausting, to be honest with you. But hey, it's all good, man. You name one time, Ben, that I've ever talked shit about you as a person and said that you weren't like one of the coolest people I've
Wait a
ever
minute.
met in my entire life.
That was never the conversation. Talking about making stories more than they actually are. We're not talking about talking shit on somebody with
I still don't know. I don't know an example. If you gave me an example, I'd admit to it right now. I still haven't heard an example.
when you told me you got your job in San Francisco, you told me you sat down with a guy who was on the cell phone, who you set your resume down and he was talking and he looked at it and he said, "That's bullshit." And then you told him to hang up the
First job
phone.
I've ever had. First job. And then afterwards he told me to sell him a pen. That's the first job I ever got. I'll introduce you to the guy that
No,
fucking did that.
you told me that's what
Yes,
happened. No, you told me that's what happened in the job
100%.
when you just
Yeah,
got back.
there's no lies there. No lies. He
Told
literally
me to my
looked at
face
me.
in Costa Rica that never happened. So which is it?
No, that happened.
So
And
then
then
you lied to me in Costa Rica because you told me it never happened.
I don't remember lying to you in Costa Rica about it.
Well, no, you've told me it happened and you've told me it didn't happen. So one
When
of
I
them
was
is a
when I was
lie.
when I was 21 years old,
Both
my
of
first
them are not a lie because you got the job. You told me in Costa Rica that you just turned in a resume and got a
job,
job.
he literally like looked at me and said, this is all bullshit, and threw the fucking resume at me and is like blah blah. And he's like, and I sat back down my seat. I'm like, this is not fucking bullshit, man. This is my fucking life, and like it was all a test. Like that's 100% factual. Like I don't know what I told you in Costa Rica, but
That's
maybe
what you told me for years. And then in Costa Rica, you told me that never happened.
I don't remember not telling you that that didn't happen. I can introduce you to the guy that fucking sat me at that table. I know him well
I
today.
can't, but here's the thing. I can't tell which way is actually true
It's
because we
true.
gone down both paths. And that's the only example I'm saying.
That's
But I
fair.
know you got the job. So
That's
it
fair.
wasn't a lie.
I mean, that was 20 years ago. I mean, like,
No, this was not 20
okay,
years.
so I see what
You
you're
told me
saying
this
now.
happened. You told me this
So,
happened when you
so
told me
over
that.
time, the story, the fish gets a little bit bigger, and it's a little bit, yeah.
Correct.
I would say I
But
do that.
also, you didn't tell me it was how you got your job 20 years ago. You told me it's how you got your job, not this, the first one when you went back from Costa Rica.
Oh no. That's a story from like when I first got my
That's
first
not
job.
what was told to me. So again, it's a great
Yeah.
story. It was probably better with this new job because I'd never heard
I
it.
mean, that's really interesting. Like
Totally
from a
okay.
psychological standpoint, like do we as people like so I like here's something that's completely off the wall, like that I've been thinking about. Like, are we living in a simulation?
Yes.
Like
Well,
honestly,
as
like
your friend, I feel like I am 100% living in a simulation.
I think at this point in my life, I'm like, I have two choices every day when I wake up. I wake up and I like my password for everything right now is get better today. And like I type that into my computer. And I'm just like, as soon as I do that, I'm just like, okay. But like I fucking feel like we're living in a simulation, bro. Like I honestly don't know what's reality sometimes anymore versus like what I'm just doing in order
Probably
to
for
make.
another pod. I will say when I said like what is similar about that to my dad, and it wasn't being to make a dig at either, is I'll give an example of that. When I was young, my dad went and caught a fish with one of my cousins in this pond, and it was like this big. It was all they caught the whole time they were there. But he came back and told the story about how they caught this huge fish, and he was young enough to where he thought it was crazy because the story was not really what happened. It was really embellished, and that he got dragged in and this whole thing. Well, that story ended up being turning into me and us fishing in Montana, and a story if I was there. And it's like that wasn't A, that wasn't me, and B, that didn't
Yeah.
happen like that. It was like an exaggerate. Anyways,
Oh,
point
I
being, like
understand.
it just
I
doesn't.
understand.
If it makes a good story to make a good impression, then screw the rest. And that's why I was saying you're like
I'm okay with that.
it's like an insult, but it's like why? Like if you're not, let's say you're being even 80% truthful on what the context of the story was, and the other person will never know, you know.
I would say the only
I'm gonna have to
story.
go, Corey, because I have a little Armageddon going on here.
All right. Well, hey, for the next pod, Ben and I will talk about all the truths we have not told, and we will
No, we don't have
dive
time.
in deep. I love you. You're my best friend, and I love you. And I'm glad we're back online doing this for everybody else.
All right.
Next time on the Dynasty Brothers podcast, we will talk about the draft, and we hope to get Sin City and Georgia online and figure out what the fuck's going on in the world. Bye.
Y'all the draft.